This story is titled, Stepmom Kicked Me Out of My Own House and Framed Me After Dad's Business Trip. Now her dirty secret is exposed, and she's losing everything. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey guys, so quick background before I start. I'm 19 female, my dad is 45, male, stepmom Sarah is 38, female, and my stepsister Katie is 15, female. This whole mess started about 3 months ago, but I had to wait to post until some legal stuff got sorted out. Using my throwaway for obvious reasons, I guess I should explain how Sarah came into our lives in the first place. Dad met her at a corporate fundraiser 5 years ago. She was working in event planning at the time. Mom had passed away from breast cancer when I was 12, and Dad spent those first 2 years just focusing on me and his work. When he met Sarah, she seemed like this breath of fresh air, all smiles and energy, always planning these elaborate dinner parties and family outings. Looking back, I should have noticed how she'd get weirdly competitive with other women at these events, or how she'd make these subtle digs about Mom's old things that I kept in my room. Katie, my stepsister, was only 10 when they got married. She's actually pretty cool. We bonded over our shared love of true crime podcasts and bad reality TV shows. Sarah always seemed annoyed when we'd hang out together, like she thought I was trying to steal her daughter or something. She'd plan mother-daughter days that specifically excluded me, even though Katie would ask if I could come along. Anyway, my dad got this amazing opportunity at work to oversee the opening of like 5 new offices across the country. The money was insane, basically double his normal salary plus bonuses if everything went smoothly. Only catch was he had to be gone for 3 months, traveling between different cities to get everything set up. Not gonna lie, I was worried about being stuck at home with just Sarah, my stepmom, for that long, but Dad was so excited about this opportunity, and I didn't want to rain on his parade. The first couple weeks were actually pretty normal. Sarah did her usual thing of pretending I didn't exist unless she needed something, which TBH I was fine with. We had this whole system worked out where I'd eat dinner in my room and she'd watch her reality shows in the living room, and we'd basically just avoid each other. Dad would video call us every night around 8 p.m., and everything seemed fine. But then Sarah started acting weird. Like, really weird. It started small. She'd hover around while I was talking to Dad on the phone, trying to hear if he mentioned anyone. Then she started asking these random questions that seemed innocent at first, but got creepier the more you thought about them. Has your dad mentioned his new assistant? He didn't have one. Do you know if he's been going to the hotel gym? Dad hates working out. Have you seen any women commenting on his LinkedIn posts? Who even checks that? I tried brushing it off at first, but she got more intense about it. One night, I got up to get some water around 3 a.m. I was binge-watching this new show and lost track of time, lol, and found her sitting in the dark, scrolling through Dad's Instagram. She had literally gone back 2 years and was writing down the names of every woman who'd liked his posts. I'm not even kidding. She had this little notebook and everything. The next morning, I found her casually looking through Dad's emails on our shared family computer. She tried playing it off like she was just checking the electric bill, but I could see she was searching for keywords like dinner and meet up. Dad's literally the most boring workaholic ever. His emails are all just spreadsheets and meeting minutes, but Sarah was convinced he was hiding something. Then she started getting obsessed with this one woman from Dad's office, Lisa. Lisa's been Dad's coworker for like 10 years, and they've never been anything but professional. But Sarah fixated on her cause she'd organize the business trip schedules. Sarah started stalking Lisa's social media, comparing timestamps of when Lisa posted versus when Dad was online, trying to prove they were meeting up secretly or something. The breaking point came when Dad missed one of our nightly video calls because he had food poisoning from some bad airport sushi. He texted us both explaining and said he'd call in the morning, but Sarah flipped out. She was convinced he was with his mistress and started calling all the hotels in the city he was in, trying to get info about his room. She even tried to buy a last-minute plane ticket to surprise him, but her credit card got declined. Thank God. That's when she started targeting me. She got it in her head that I knew something and was covering for him. Her logic was that since Dad and I are close, he must have told me about his affair, which didn't exist. She started going through my phone when I was sleeping, reading my texts, even checking my car mileage to see if I was meeting up with them. I tried explaining that Dad was literally just working and sending us pics of boring office stuff like every day to prove it, but Sarah wouldn't listen. She kept saying stuff like, "You're protecting him because you want me gone," And I know how daughters and fathers conspire together. She was projecting so hard, I'm surprised she didn't start a movie theater LOL. And every time Dad called, she'd act completely normal. She had this whole Jekyll and Hyde thing going where she'd be sweet as pie when he was around, or on video, but then turn into this paranoid monster the second he was gone. Dad had no idea any of this was happening because Sarah would time her crazy moments perfectly. Then one day, she decided to escalate. Two was getting ready for work one morning, just minding my own business, when Sarah burst into my room without knocking. She never knocks anymore. It's like she's trying to catch me sending secret messages to Dad's mistress or something LMAO. She had this weird smile on her face, like when a cartoon villain thinks they've come up with some genius plan. Emily, she said, I think it's time we had a discussion about your living arrangements. I'm literally standing there with a toothbrush in my mouth, like, what living arrangements? This is my house? But Sarah had clearly rehearsed this whole speech. She starts going on about how I'm practically an adult, and how real adults pay their way in life, and how since I'm old enough to keep secrets for Daddy, I'm old enough to contribute to the household. Then she drops the bomb. $800 a month in rent, starting immediately, or I can move into what she called the more age-appropriate accommodations, in the basement. Now let me tell you about this basement room. It's basically a glorified storage closet. No windows, weird musty smell, and I'm pretty sure something lives in the walls because you can hear scratching at night. Plus, it floods every time it rains, because the foundation has this crack Dad's been meaning to fix. I straight up laughed because I thought she was joking. Big mistake. Sarah's face did that thing where it goes from fake sweet to straight up scary in like 0.2 seconds. I'm not asking, Emily. I'm telling. You have 48 hours to decide. Pay rent or move downstairs. I tried explaining that this was literally my house. Like, Dad bought it years before he even met her. I grew up here. I had proof and everything because I found the old mortgage papers when I was helping Dad organize his office last year. But Sarah just gave me this condescending little laugh and said, not anymore, sweetie. I'm your father's wife now. What's his is mine and what's mine, well, isn't yours. That's when the real crazy started. Sarah apparently decided that since I wasn't immediately agreeing to her demands, she needed to motivate me. First, it was little things. My laundry would mysteriously end up in the garbage instead of the dryer. The Wi-Fi would cut out, but only in my room. My leftovers would disappear from the fridge with a note saying, paying residents only. Then she stepped it up. One morning, I woke up to freezing cold water in the shower. She'd turned off the hot water to my bathroom. When I tried using the main bathroom instead, I found she'd changed the lock. She's starting timing my meals too. Set a literal kitchen timer and said I had 15 minutes to eat, or she'd throw my food away because her kitchen has rules now. The door handle to my room straight up vanished one day. Sarah claimed I slammed it too much, and that door handles were a paying resident privilege. I had to tie a freaking jump rope through the hole just to be able to close my door. Then she started with the notes. OMG, the notes. They were everywhere. Rent due, taped to my mirror. Moochers not welcome, on the fridge. Time to grow up, stuck to my laptop. But the worst part? She started throwing away my stuff. Not like my clothes or everyday things, though those would mysteriously get lost in the laundry a lot. No, she went for the sentimental stuff, things she knew would hurt. I came home from work one day and found my entire bookshelf emptied into the trash outside. These were my childhood books. The Harry Potter series my late mom got me for my 10th birthday. The copy of The Hobbit Dad and I used to read together when I was sick, all ruined from sitting in the rain. When I confronted her about it, she just shrugged and said, oops, spring cleaning. Maybe if you paid rent, you'd have storage rights. Then she smiled, that same smug smile from when she first demanded rent, and went back to watching her reality shows like she hadn't just destroyed some of my most precious possessions. I tried calling Dad that night, but Sarah had changed the Wi-Fi password, again, and I had barely any data left on my phone. When I finally got through, she hovered around making loud comments about ungrateful children and teenage drama queens until I couldn't even explain what was happening. Every time I tried to tell Dad what she was doing, she'd either interrupt or twist it around to make me sound crazy. The final straw came when she lost her keys and had the whole house rekeyed without giving me a copy. I had to wait outside for 3 hours after my shift at work, in the rain, because she wasn't feeling well and couldn't come to the door right away. I could literally see her watching Netflix through the living room window. That's when I realized I had to get out. I had about $800 saved up from my job. Ironic. That's exactly what Sarah wanted for rent, LOL. I waited until Sarah was at her yoga class to pack whatever I could fit in my 2012 Honda. Pro tip, A Civic's back seat can hold way more than you'd think if you're desperate enough. The first night was the worst. I had no idea where to park. Like, nobody teaches you this stuff. Ended up at Walmart because I heard they let people park overnight. By the way, my local Walmart does not, in fact, let people park overnight. Got woken up at 3 a.m. by security tapping on my window. Not fun. After that lovely experience, I got smart and made a whole system. Got a membership at a gym, $10 a month. Honestly, a lifesaver. Not only could I shower there, but their parking lot was perfect because people come and go 24/7, so nobody notices one car that's there a lot. Plus, they have free Wi-Fi if you're close enough to the building. Living in your car sounds kinda adventure-ish when you're reading about it online. But let me tell you, it sucks. Like, imagine trying to get ready for work in a gym's bathroom, while Karen from accounting is doing her morning routine right next to you. Try keeping your work clothes wrinkle-free in a garbage bag in your back seat. Fun times. The worst part was the weather. It rained for like 5 days straight at one point. Ever tried sleeping while rain is pounding on your car roof? Or worse, when it's hot and humid, but you can't leave the windows down too much for safety? I literally had to buy one of those battery-operated fans from Dollar Tree because I was worried about dying of heat stroke. The whole time this was happening, Sarah was sending these super fake concerned messages to my friends about how worried she was about me. Emily's been acting so strange lately, and we just want her to come home and get help. She even called my manager to check on my mental health. Thank God my manager Jenny knows me well enough to smell BS. One thing about being basically homeless, you find out real quick who your real friends are. Most of my friends got weird when I tried explaining what was happening. They'd be like, "But she seemed so nice at your dad's wedding." Or, "Maybe she's just stressed." Some even sided with Sarah because she was posting all this fake worried stepmom stuff on Facebook. But my friend Megan? MVP right here. She couldn't let me stay at her place because her parents are super strict, but she'd sneak me leftovers from her family dinners and let me use her family's Netflix password. She even kept some of my important stuff at her house, like my birth certificate and the jewelry my mom left me. I was terrified Sarah would find that stuff if I left it at home. The hardest part was trying to keep up appearances at work. Do you know how hard it is to look professional when you're living out of your car? I had this whole routine where I'd hang my work clothes from the grab handle in my car to try to steam them with the morning humidity. Doesn't work great, but better than nothing. I got pretty good at finding places to park, different spots for different times of day, the gym lot for sleeping and morning routine, Starbucks parking lot during the day, cause their Wi-Fi reaches to the back corner, library lot on weekends cause they don't check. The regular parking pattern meant I didn't draw attention, which was crucial cause I was paranoid about cops the whole time. Sarah kept trying to get info about where I was. She'd have Katie text me these innocent-sounding messages that were obviously Sarah fishing for details. Mom says you can come home if you just tell her the truth about Dad. Like, what truth? The truth is he's literally just working. The worst night was when my car battery died. Middle of nowhere, 2 a.m., pouring rain. I had to call 8AA and make up some story about being on my way home from a friend's house. The guy definitely knew I was living in my car. My pillow and blanket were right there in the back seat, but he was cool about it. Even slipped me a card for a local shelter, just in case. I managed to keep this up for about 2 weeks before Dad came home early. And that's when everything went to a whole new level of crazy. I was parked in my usual spot, trying to eat my gourmet dinner, aka a cold McChicken, when I saw Dad's car pull into the lot. My heart literally stopped. He wasn't supposed to be back for another week. Turns out some deals closed early or something. Sarah must have been freaking out because she didn't have time to set up her whole Emily ran away story properly. But guys, she managed to pull it off anyway. Like, I gotta give it to her. If being an evil stepmom doesn't work out, she could totally have a career in creative writing. So Dad knocks on my car window, and I can tell by his face that Sarah's already gotten to him. He looked so disappointed, angry, both. Behind him, Sarah's standing there with this perfect concerned stepmother face. Before I could even explain anything, Sarah starts with her performance. I swear she must have practiced this in a mirror or something. She had tears, you guys. Like, actual tears. She starts telling Dad about how I'd been acting out ever since he left. According to her, I'd been sneaking guys over for wild parties. Me, the girl who reads fantasy novels for fun, and destroying the house. But here's the really messed up part. She had evidence. Like, she'd actually trashed parts of the house herself and took pictures. We're talking broken picture frames, stained carpets, even some sketchy-looking cigarette burns on the couch. I don't even smoke. She'd been planning this for a while, taking pictures every time she damaged something. And then she pulled out her phone and showed Dad these texts that were supposedly from me admitting to everything. Y'all. She had made a whole fake text conversation. Like she must have used some app or something because they looked real. In these texts, I was apparently bragging about partying and saying stuff like, you can't control me, and Dad doesn't need to know. I tried to show Dad my real phone to prove the texts were fake. But guess what? All my messages were gone. Remember how Sarah used to mess with my phone at night back when I still lived at home? Yeah, she deleted everything. All the texts where I tried to tell people what was happening, all the evidence of her crazy behavior, everything. Dad was so angry. Like, I'd never seen him this mad before. Sarah kept doing this thing where she'd put her hand on his arm and say stuff like, we tried so hard to help her. And I blame myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I tried explaining everything, the rent demands, the locked doors, the destroyed books, but Sarah had an answer for everything. The rent thing, she was trying to teach me responsibility. The locked doors, I'd lost my keys multiple times, and she was tired of making copies. My destroyed books, apparently I'd had some wild party, and my drunk friends had thrown them out. Then she showed Dad a bunch of receipts from Home Depot for repairs to the house. She'd actually gone and bought supplies to fix the damage she caused, just to make it look like she was the responsible one cleaning up after my parties. Dad just broke. Like, I watched his face change as Sarah piled on more and more evidence. He went from concerned parent to completely convinced his daughter was some kind of wild child party animal. The look he gave me, I'll never forget it. Right there in the parking lot, he took my car keys. Said I couldn't be trusted with a car if this was how I was going to act. Sarah stood behind him, doing her concerned headshake thing, occasionally wiping away fake tears. You're not welcome home until you grow up and take responsibility for your actions, Dad said. Then they left. Just left me there, in the gym parking lot, with basically nothing except my phone, which was almost dead, and whatever was in my backpack. Sarah's smug little smile as they drove away told me everything. She'd won. Like, completely won. Not only had she gotten me out of the house, but she'd managed to make it look like it was all my fault. I ended up walking to Megan's house at like 11 p.m. Her parents didn't want me staying there. Sarah had gotten to them too with her stories about my concerning behavior. But Megan snuck me some money for a motel that night. That was probably the lowest point. Sitting in this sketchy motel, watching my phone die, knowing my dad thought I was some kind of delinquent. I cried myself to sleep that night, not gonna lie. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. Sometimes you find something interesting down there. After that, I basically couch surfed between different friends' houses until I could scrape together enough money for a place. Working 2 jobs, kept my Barnes and Noble gig, and picked up shifts at this sketchy 24-hour diner. The diner job sucked. Nothing like cleaning up drunk people's mess at 3 a.m. But they paid in cash and didn't ask questions. I finally managed to rent this tiny studio apartment. When I say tiny, I mean tiny. Like my bed doubled as my couch and dining room table. The kitchen was basically a microwave balanced on a mini fridge, and the bathroom, let's just say I had to sit sideways on the toilet because my knees would hit the wall otherwise. But it was mine. No Sarah, no mind games, no passive-aggressive notes about rent. I was actually starting to get my life together, in a sad kind of way. Had a routine going. Morning shift at B&N, evening shift at the diner, shower at my fancy bathroom, fall asleep watching Netflix on my phone. Not living the dream exactly, but surviving. Then one night around 2 a.m., I got this text from Katie. Now, I hadn't heard from her in weeks because Sarah had convinced everyone I was this horrible influence. The text just said, "Are you awake? I found something." I almost ignored it TBH, thought it was another one of Sarah's tricks to get info about me. But something about the way it was written seemed different. More Katie-like? She uses way too many emojis usually. So I replied. Turns out Katie had found something interesting in Sarah's secret stash. See, Sarah had this fancy vape pen she carried everywhere. Like everywhere. Would literally freak out if she couldn't find it. We all thought she was just really into vaping. She was going through this whole healthy alternatives phase. Well, Katie found it in the laundry one day. The pen had fallen out of Sarah's yoga pants pocket or something. Now, Katie's 15 and curious about everything. Normal teenager stuff. So she started messing with it. She figured out the bottom part could unscrew. Inside, a rolled-up piece of paper with a phone number and hotel receipts. And Katie, my absolutely brilliant stepsister, didn't confront Sarah. Instead, she did some detective work. She wrote down the phone number and used her friend's phone to text it. Genius move. Sarah regularly checked Katie's phone. The number belonged to Sarah's personal trainer. You know, the guy she spent 2 hours with 3 times a week getting fit. The guy she was supposedly doing extra sessions with to work on her core strength. Yeah, core strength. Sure. Katie showed me screenshots of months of messages between them. Like, we're talking detailed plans of their meetups, disgusting gym-related innuendos. I will never look at a resistance band the same way again. And even some spicy pictures that I really wish I could unsee. Katie was freaking out when she found all this. Turns out Sarah had been gaslighting her too. Would tell her stuff like, your stepsister is trying to break up our family, and don't tell anyone about our family problems, or you'll end up back with your dad. Which, BTW, Katie's dad is actually a good guy. Sarah just kept her away from him to maintain control. Now Katie felt horrible about believing her mom's lies about me. She'd actually kept a diary of all the weird stuff Sarah had been doing, but was too scared to say anything because Sarah had convinced her she'd end up homeless if she did. But Trainer Boy? He's married, has a whole wife and everything. A wife who, as it turns out, had been suspecting something was up with her husband's late-night clients. At this point, my brain was going into overdrive. Sarah had spent months accusing Dad of cheating, kicked me out, turned everyone against me, all while she was having a full-on affair with her married personal trainer. We knew we had to be smart about this. Sarah was too good at manipulation. I'd learned that the hard way when she kicked me out. We couldn't just run to Dad with accusations without solid proof, or she'd somehow twist it around to make us look like the bad guys. Again. We spent about a week gathering everything. Katie was like a secret agent, I swear. She'd wait until Sarah was in the shower to snag pics of diary entries. The cringe in those entries. Sarah wrote about Trainer Boy like she was a teenager writing bad fan fiction. She found this envelope in Sarah's desk marked gym membership records that was actually full of hotel receipts. Real subtle, Sarah. But the real goldmine was Sarah's text messages. She'd gotten so confident in her affair that she didn't even bother deleting them anymore. There were literally hundreds of texts between her and Trainer Boy. All this gross stuff about their special training sessions and working on flexibility. Katie screenshotted everything and sent it to me. I was super nervous about showing Dad everything. Like, how do you even start that conversation? Hey Dad, remember how your wife accused you of cheating and kicked me out? Well, funny story. But then Sarah made this massive mistake that basically forced our hand. She started using Dad's credit card for the hotel rooms. She thought she was being so clever, marking them as wellness retreat expenses or intensive training workshops. What she didn't know was that Dad's bank sends him text alerts for any charge over $200. He'd been getting suspicious, especially since these wellness retreats were all at local hotels. Dad actually mentioned it to me one day, before he believed Sarah's lies, when I was over at his office dropping off some paperwork. He was like, isn't it weird that Sarah needs so many local training workshops? And why doesn't she ever have any certificates or photos from these things? I nearly spilled everything right then, but we wanted to make sure we had all our evidence organized first. After we dug deeper into everything and found enough evidence for Dad to believe us, we decided to tell Dad everything at home. Katie suggested we do it on a Tuesday since Sarah always had her evening training sessions, barf, then. But first we had to deal with the awkward part, me actually coming back to the house. I hadn't been there since that night in the gym parking lot when Dad told me I wasn't welcome anymore. Katie came up with this whole plan where she'd tell Sarah she needed girl time to talk about boy problems, guaranteeing Sarah would flee to the gym and her trainer even faster than usual. Meanwhile, I'd been throwing up all morning from nerves. Like, how do you walk back into a house you were kicked out of? Where do you even sit? Is it weird to use the bathroom? These are the things they don't cover in therapy, lol. Walking up that driveway was surreal. All my stuff was still in garbage bags in my tiny studio apartment. Katie had to literally pull me through the door because I froze on the porch. We set up in Dad's office because Katie said he'd feel more in control there. Smart kid. I stood there for like 10 minutes trying to figure out where to sit. Finally just ended up standing awkwardly by the window. Katie stress ate an entire box of Dad's protein bars while we waited. Sorry, Dad. I kept having these weird flashbacks to the night he took my car keys. Part of me wanted to run before he got home. Like, why would he believe me now when he didn't believe me then? But Katie grabbed my hand and was like, he needs to know. We need him to know. When we heard Dad's car in the driveway, I literally thought I was going to pass out. Katie had to remind me to breathe. He walked in and just stopped, stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. I mean, his troublemaker daughter who he'd kicked out was standing in his office with his stepdaughter. Can't blame him for being confused. Emily, his voice did this weird crack thing. What are you? How did you? He looked at the door like he expected Sarah to burst in and start accusing me of something. I tried to start explaining but kept choking up. How do you tell your dad that not only was his wife cheating, but that all the stuff she'd accused me of was lies? That I'd been living in my car because of her lies? That he'd kicked out his own daughter because of her lies? Katie, bless her chaotic little heart, just grabbed the folder and blurted out, "Mom's cheating on you with her trainer. We have proof, and she lied about everything with Emily." Y'all, the next few minutes were the longest of my life. Dad sat down at his desk, kind of fell into his chair, really, and started going through everything. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely hold the papers. When he got to the hotel receipts from his credit card, he made this sound I never want to hear again, like someone had punched him in the gut. Then he got to the part about Sarah's accusations against me, the proof she'd manufactured about my supposed parties, the deleted texts, the staged damage to the house. Each page seemed to age him like 5 years. "I kicked you out," he whispered, looking up at me. "I took your car. I believed her over my own daughter." His voice cracked again. "Emily, That's when his phone buzzed. Another credit card alert. $259 at the Marriott downtown. Sarah was literally with Trainer Boy right then. The look on Dad's face, I thought he was going to be sick. But instead, he did something that shocked me. He started laughing. Not happy laughter, of course. "I've been so worried about turning into a jealous husband," he said. "So determined to trust her after how she painted you as paranoid. I ignored every red flag. I chose her over my own child." He picked up his phone, and before I could say anything, he was calling his lawyer, then his bank. Canceled every single one of Sarah's credit cards, while Katie and I watched in shock. He was scary calm through all of it, like when something's so bad you go right past angry into this weird zen state. Around 8 p.m., we heard Sarah's car. She always came home all relaxed and giggly after these workouts. Excuse me while I gag. She practically floated through the door, humming some pop song, then stopped dead when she saw us all sitting there. Her eyes went straight to me, then the folder, then back to me. The look on her face. It was like watching someone's entire world collapse in slow motion. She knew exactly what that folder was. All her lies, all her manipulation. Everything was about to come crashing down. Dad stood up, walked over to me, and put his hand on my shoulder. The message was clear. This time, he was choosing his daughter. "What the hell is she doing in here?" Sarah's voice went into that fake sweet tone that always meant trouble. "Honey, why would you let her back in our house after everything she did? Emily, sweetie, you can't just show up here in our house." Dad's voice was scary quiet. "You mean my house? The one you've been bringing your trainer to while I'm at work?" Sarah's face did this weird thing where she tried to look confused and angry at the same time. "I don't know what lies she's been telling you, but—" "Sit down, Sarah." Dad's hand tightened on my shoulder. Not painful, more like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. "We have a lot to talk about, starting with these hotel receipts. On my credit card." The next hour after Sarah walked in was like watching someone go through the 5 stages of grief, except it was more like the 5 stages of getting caught being a total POS. Quick recap. Sarah had just walked in from her training session, aka hotel meetup with her trainer, to find me, Dad, Katie, all waiting with proof of her affair. First came denial. Full-on, aggressive denial. "Those hotel receipts are for actual training workshops? At 8 p.m. in a Marriott? Those texts are fake." Sure, we somehow faked months of messages. "This is just Emily trying to ruin our family again." Yeah, because that worked so well for me last time. When denial didn't work, she switched to attacking me. Started screaming about how I was jealous of her relationship with Dad and how I'd manipulated poor Katie into helping me. She actually tried to grab the folder of evidence, but Katie's dad blocked her. Having him there was clutch BTW. Sarah couldn't pull her usual victim act with an actual witness present. Then came my favorite part. Sarah decided to call Trainer Boy for backup, like full-on speakerphone in front of everyone. Probably thought he'd swoop in with some story about their professional relationship or whatever. Y'all, dude sent her straight to voicemail. She tried texting him, nothing. Called again, voicemail. The look on her face when she realized he'd blocked her. Priceless. See, she had built up this whole fantasy in her head about their epic romance. But going through her texts earlier, it was obvious Trainer Boy was just using her for fun. His responses were always super basic, like, "See you later," while she'd write these long paragraphs about their future together. Classic fuckboy behavior. That's when she hit full panic mode. Started crying about how lonely she was because Dad worked so much. How she made a terrible mistake, and we could work through this as a family. She actually tried to hug Dad, but he stepped back and said the 6 words that broke her. I've already called the divorce lawyer. Y'all, the switch that flipped. Sarah went from crying damsel in distress to full rage monster in zero point 0.2 seconds. Started screaming about how she'd given him the best years of her life. It was literally 3 years. Calm down. And how she deserved half of everything. Dad just calmly reminded her about the prenup. You know, the one she'd been trying to get him to review or destroy for months? Turns out it had a really specific infidelity clause. Like, really specific. Sarah wouldn't get anything except her personal belongings. She tried pulling the "you can't prove anything" card. That's when Dad showed her his phone. All her credit cards were already canceled. He'd also frozen their joint account and contacted his lawyer about the hotel charges she'd made with his card. The look on her face when she realized she'd basically been documenting her own affair with his money. Chef's kiss. The next few weeks were intense. Sarah tried everything to save herself. Sent crying voicemails about how sorry she was. Tried to get her family to pressure Dad into taking her back. Even showed up at his office to make a scene. But his new receptionist, hired after all this drama, just called security. Her sister kicked her out after 3 days when she saw all the evidence of how Sarah had treated me and Katie. Apparently, Sarah had been telling everyone this whole different story about what an amazing stepmom she was. How she'd tried so hard to help her troubled stepdaughter. When they saw the truth, yeah, no one wanted to help her after that. The divorce was fast because of the prenup. Sarah tried to contest it, but it's hard to argue when there's literal credit card records of your affair. She didn't get the house. Dad bought it before they met. The car, in Dad's name, or any money. She didn't even get her gym membership. They banned her when they found out about her thing with the trainer. Now, last I heard is that Sarah's living in this tiny studio apartment and working at Smoothie King in the mall. She tried getting back into personal training, but turns out gyms don't want trainers who sleep with clients' spouses. She can't even get references because everyone at her old gym knows what she did. Trainer boy? Never spoke to her again. He's still with his wife, probably moved on to his next client by now. Sarah was just another bored housewife to him, but she'd convinced herself they had this great love story. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. Dad and I are working through everything in therapy. He's still dealing with massive guilt about not believing me, about taking my car, about all of it. Sometimes he'll just look at me and start apologizing again. We're getting there, though. Baby steps. Katie lives with her dad full-time now, and she's like a different person. Turns out Sarah had been using custody threats to manipulate both of them for years. Katie's in therapy too, working through all her mom's manipulation. She's actually really cool when she's not being forced to be Sarah's spy. The really weird part? Katie and I are super close now. We do sister nights every week, watch bad reality TV, make fun of Sarah's old Instagram posts. She deleted her account, but screenshots are forever, and talk about all the red flags we should have seen. It's kind of ironic. Sarah tried so hard to keep us apart, but her own actions ended up making us actual sisters. That room Sarah forced me out of? Dad helped me completely redo it. New paint, new furniture, even a lock on the door. My choice, still working through some trust issues. Sarah still tries to contact me, but now it's all drunk 2 a.m. Texts calling me a home-wrecking bitch and threatening to make me regret ruining her life. She'll spam my phone with like 20 messages switching between calling me a whore and begging to work things out as a family. Sometimes I think about blocking her, but honestly, watching her spiral is kind of entertaining. She went from smug and manipulative to completely unhinged. And the fact that she's losing it over her own downfall? Chef's kiss. I used to waste energy being angry at her, but I don't care anymore. She made her bed. Now she gets to lie in it. TLDR. Stepmom's affair exposed. She lost everything in divorce thanks to prenup. Now serves smoothies at the mall while we're all thriving. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards. Edit 2. Yes, we kept all the evidence. No, we're not going to post the texts. Lawyer's orders. Edit 3. Stop asking for Sarah's smoothie shop location. Yes, she has to wear a paper hat. No, we don't need to go harass her. Karma's doing plenty.